My friends, on June 25th, 2015, many Catholic and secular news agencies had the following as their headline. Quote, "The CDF declares Medjugorje to be negative." Some form or another, these headlines indicated that the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith had reached a negative conclusion regarding the reported Medjugorje apparitions. This was supposedly based on a meeting of the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith on June 24th, 2015. Once again, not reported by the Vatican or by the CDF, but by a Roman newspaper. My friends, the report was absolutely false. In fact, a Vatican spokesman, Father Lombardi, came out and said that there was no meeting, the Feria Quarta meeting on June 24th by the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith. And so let's get the facts correct as we get it from the Vatican spokesman, not from individual Roman newspapers. There are three entities involved in the case of a declaration regarding the reported Medjugorje apparitions. Number one is the Vatican Commission, a commission that has completed its studies, which were undertaken under the auspices, the direction of Cardinal Ruini. And Pope Francis made reference to this commission during his recent trip to Sarajevo. So, number one is the Vatican Commission that's doing the investigation and doing a theological consultation for the congregation. That's one. Number two is a meeting at the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith, whether it be a plenary session, the next one is not due until January, or a Feria Quarta, which typically meets on the Wednesday of each month. According to Vatican spokesman Father Lombardi, that meeting, A, has not yet taken place, and B, very possibly will not take place till after the end of the summer. At that second meeting, and this is a meeting where you're going to have approximately 25 cardinals and bishops to examine and discuss the Vatican Commission's results. That meeting has not yet, once again, taken place. That meeting will make a judgment regarding the Ruini Commission. That will then be given to the Holy Father. So, component one, again, is the Vatican Commission. Component two is this meeting at the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith that will then give an opinion regarding the Vatican Commission under Cardinal Ruini. Then the critical number three is Pope Francis. Both the Theological Commission under Cardinal Ruini and the eventual meeting by the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith with some 25 cardinals and bishops will be advisory to Pope Francis. Pope Francis will make the decision regarding the Medjugorje apparitions. And so, first and foremost, the agencies that did carry the false report based on a meeting which never took place at the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith really has a moral and a journalistic obligation to run the truth of what the Vatican spokesman, Father Lombardi, said, so as to not cast aspersions on what well might be a legitimate supernatural act of heaven. Now, indeed, that too is something that awaits the response of the Holy Father. If one wants to go on things like, leaks and speculations, which, as we've seen, is dangerous because in this case it was simply wrong, it was erroneous. The vast majority of the speculation suggests that there will be a declaration of Medjugorje as a center of prayer, type of sanctuary. Even if they do not make a final decision regarding the authenticity of the apparitions, there seems to be strong support, at least in terms of speculation, and some comments from members of the Commission that there could well be a declaration of a Marian shrine. Well, this would be a very positive thing for Medjugorje. It would ensure people could continue to go to Medjugorje and to try to live the message of Medjugorje, even if there's not a final definitive judgment regarding the authenticity of the apparitions. And so in some, I'd say, once again, when you hear reports about Medjugorje, examine the source. If it's not coming from the Vatican, if it's not coming from the Holy Father or a Vatican congregation in some official capacity, you don't want to take this as something that would be substantial. And indeed, Pope Francis, guided by the Spirit in his office of Peter, will make the final judgment based on two bits of advice. One from the Ruini Commission, the second from the Congregation of the Doctrine of Faith plenary session, Ore Feria Quarta. So let's continue in peace, and I can say with great peace, as a personal believer in Medjugorje, and in my personal belief I will submit entirely and completely to the final definitive judgment of the Church, I continue to experience the graces and the blessings of the Queen of Peace from Medjugorje, from the peace of her messages and the tremendous effects it's had for me individually, and as much of the world testifies, over 50 million people going there, literally hundreds, if not thousands of religious vocations, so many reports of miraculous cures, but also cures of the heart. Millions and millions have testified to the legitimacy of Medjugorje. So we can indeed go on in peace, waiting the final, definitive, and accurate decision which will come ultimately from Pope Francis. Thanks. God bless.